Today we are moving on to part 2 of your Collagraph Printing project. Yesterday I explained and then I demonstrated what a collagraph print is. We'll be using thin pieces of cardboard, cutting them up, gluing them onto a block to make prints. Yesterday you started by coming up with 4 different design ideas. You may have finished all 4 by now, and your designs need to be something that could be cut out of cardboard and then glued to another piece. So we're thinking about shapes and about abstract designs as well. This set of 4 thumbnail sketches is due today. So finish this one up and submit a picture of it in today's assignment. And now we're also going to be starting on step 2 of this project, which is to narrow it down and select one design and start working on a rough draft. Hello again. Today I'm going to go over your next step in this collagraph printing process. So yesterday you started making 4 thumbnail sketches. These are some quick sketches that give you a basic idea of where your shapes are going to be arranged within your picture. Today you're going to finish this and then go submit a picture of it in Schoology. Once you've done that, we're also going to start on step 2 today. Step 2 is to make a rough draft for your block. So, step 2, you're going to need another piece of paper. If you have a sheet of printer paper and you fold it in half, that's going to be close to the size of your block when we start making your block, which we're not going to make the block until probably Monday. We'll start cutting things out and gluing things on. But for today, you'll want to at least start coming up with how you're going to arrange all your pieces onto the block. So I've got these 4 ideas, and I really like my last one, this one right here. And I want to make this one the one I focus on, but there's some things that I want to show you before you decide which one you for sure want to go with, because you might need to make some changes to it first. So, collagraph prints. Yesterday I showed you some prints that I made using this block right here. And the idea is we're going to do a rubbing with different materials to be able to take the image on your block and transfer it to a piece of paper. So the things I wanted to show you were different ways to arrange the shapes. The first one I want to show you is the difference between putting your shapes right next to each other versus leaving a little gap in between. Both of these are things that you could do within your design, but I wanted to show you what it looks like before you decide for sure and glue it on, because once you glue it on, it's pretty much stuck there. So the first one I want to show you is what it looks like when all of your pieces are touching each other once you glue them on. I have laid the crayon over the top sideways, and I am now rubbing it across all of those pieces. So you can see right away that the pieces all kind of turn into one big shape. Are you noticing that? Because I'm definitely noticing that. The gap that's in between is really tiny, so you're not seeing very much of a gap in between the shapes on your rubbing. And if that's what you want, a really, really light line, then this is what you want to do. But I find that most of you probably want to see the different shapes really clearly, so I would suggest to leave a little gap like I did between these. So let's look at this one. All right, so this second one, you can see much more clearly the difference between the shapes that are glued onto the block. We've got a gap in between them, and that helps to be able to identify the different rectangles and triangles in here. So when you're looking at your designs, You may need to put a little gap in between your pieces, like I put a gap in between this triangle and the shape next to it, and this one and this one. So be thinking about that. Another thing to think about has to do with overlapping. So here I've got a circle and I just glued a triangle over the top of it. So let's see what that looks like. All right, so here you can see the triangle, you can see the circle. And this is what it looks like when I just glued the triangle right on top of the circle. You can still see this line right here where the triangle kind of goes up over the circle. If you don't want that to happen, then you can cut them so that they are not overlapping. So the way I would suggest doing that is to place your shapes the way you want them. Trace the one that's on top so you can see where that line is. And then cut out the space where that shape, instead of going on top of the circle, I want to be able to put it right next to the circle. Y'all see the difference there? So now, if I glue this one real quick, these are all, by the way, pieces of cardboard from, this looks like a Little Debbie's box. The cardboard we want to use is going to be the thinner cardboard, the kind from your cereal boxes or Pop-Tart boxes or things like that. So there's my triangle. Now when I glue my circle, I could glue it so that it's really close to the triangle, or I could scooch it so there's a little gap in between so that I can see the different shapes more clearly. Let's glue my Pac-Man on there. Okay, so there's that one. Let's see what it looks like when I do a rubbing. Hopefully the glue is dry enough. So there you have it. Overlapping your shapes versus cutting it out to be able to fit them next to each other. So these are some things to think about when you're looking at your designs. My next step is going to be, now that I've seen those examples and I understand those concepts, to start making my rough draft on this paper that I folded. So I want to go with this design, but I like the idea of making the circle bigger so that my triangles are kind of overlapping in there. And I've actually already started drawing it. So this is the one I've been going with, and I've been looking at it horizontally. And so my design, I'm going all the way to the edges of this half sheet of paper. I've drawn out all of my shapes, and I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about where I want to overlap the shapes, or if I want to actually cut this shape out of my circle and have a gap in here. So on your rough draft, you want to draw it the way you're going to build it with the cardboard. Does that make sense? So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to cut this piece out of this triangle so that it's like an empty space that's shaped like my circle. And I'm going to cut this piece out so that my big triangle can fit in like this. Awesome. Your rough draft is going to be one of your designs, or maybe you're actually going to combine things, about two of them. And you're actually putting the detail into this drawing. We're going to spend 2 days on this rough draft. It is due tomorrow, which is Friday. So look at your 4 designs and figure out which one is going to work really well and what might you need to change about it so that it works on your rough draft. Now, here is our to-do list. First, you need to finish your 4 thumbnail drawings and submit those today. So submit the pictures of your 4 thumbnail drawings. And then the second thing you're going to do is start on your rough draft drawing. This is due tomorrow. Your rough draft, I would say just find a sheet of paper, whether it's in your sketchbook or a sheet of printer paper, fold it in half and fill that whole half paper with your design. That's going to be a little bit smaller than what our actual block is going to be, but a pretty close size. Remember that the shapes that you're drawing onto this paper are going to turn into shapes that you will be cutting out of a sheet of thin cardboard and then gluing down onto another piece. So they shouldn't be too tiny or it's going to be really difficult to cut and glue those. Let us know if you have any questions.